Topic of this presentation is speed of karate technique. It is from the book Karate Introductory Level, presented by the author and produced by Providence Business Group LLC. Karate Introductory Level book has 5 chapters. Chapter 1, Overview of Basic Techniques. Content of that chapter is the 14 components of the technique, and speed of techniques come from that chapter as well. Chapter 2, Overview of Basics of Kata. Content is the origin and philosophical concept of Kata, as well as the Shorei and Shorin type of Kata. Then chapter number 3, Program for 10Q, list of basic techniques for 10Q, and introduction of karate-gram of basic techniques, kata, rotations, and sparring as a training methodology. Chapter 4, Taikyoku Shodan Kata, front view and the back view of katas are shown. Illustration of position, foot position for each move in the ambition of kata is presented as well. And chapter 5 is a test for 9Q, description of the sets of exercise for 9Q tests and explanation of important points for each exercise combination. Now, majority of material for this presentation, speed of techniques, come from chapter 1. In chapter 1, there are the 14 components of techniques, out of which number 7 is the speed. And when we look both martial art and sports karate, speed become, and it is, important part of each, but it is not dominant. Number 9, impact power, is a dominant part of martial art. That means really a little bit more important than speed itself. Number 13 is the ending point of the technique, and that is a dominant part in sports karate. Speed is a genetically driven phenomenon, and like all other physiological genetic parameters, speed is natural growth and development, and it will peak and decline at a particular time in our life. Number 9, impact power, as we said, important for martial art. Number 13, ending points of techniques, important for sports karate. Both of those are training-driven parameters. Speed peak usually around the age of 23 years. Regardless how fast, naturally, untrained person is, that is only about 70% of true maximal potential. With the practice, speed may reach its real peak up to the 100% few years before and remain on the higher level even few years after 23 years as a result of good, sound training which is done in timely practice. This means done few years before and remain to be few years after time of the peak for the speed. Pioneering work on the speed of technique was done using 16 millimeter camera at the 64 frame per second in distant 1966 by truly great master Masatoshi Nakayama, the chief instructor of Japan Karate Association, JKA, and this work is published in his book Dynamic Karate. What he did, he looked two techniques. He looked non-reverse straight punch and reverse straight punch, and he looked how did the 4th-degree black belt fall down, 2nd-degree black belt, and the beginner, how do they fare in these two techniques. Now, there are two reasons and two rationale that we can offer to explain these results, different results. Biomechanical reason, the slowest speed found for the reverse straight punch, 5 meters per second, a little bit more, 5 meters per second, is due to the greater involvement of trunk rotation muscle compared to the non-reverse straight punch, which is a little bit more than 8 meters per second, where trunk rotation is a minimal. Trunk rotation use more slow twitch muscle fiber, and because of that, reversal straight punch is slower in its action, has reduced speed. Now, second reason can be training reason. In training, athletes learn to execute techniques in more effective way by eliminating excessive moves, trimming the so-called trimming the fat from the technique, and technique become faster. That's why 4th-degree black belt techniques are faster compared to the beginner or even to the 2nd-degree black belt. It is assumed that martial artists in a lifelong training karate do with automation of technique develop greater speed together with the biomechanics specific to karate style. Now let's look rationale, genetic rationale. Genetic will not change during the course of training, but will influence definitely outcome of training. And one part of genetics is nerve fiber or neuronal axons. Greater diameter of axons is, transmission will be faster. So what's the job for coach and athlete? They need to identify what is naturally faster, arms or leg, and proceed with the practice to eliminating what is deficient to improve what is the best. Natural tendency that we like to practice what we are best in. And that's okay, but only way to progress if you eliminate deficiencies. I know nobody likes that. Like for instance, axons which are 13 to 20 micrometers in diameter, they transmit impulse 80 to 120 meters per second. We can realize how quickly impulse from the brain can come in the peripheral muscle. And second reason, again involve genetics, same thing. Genetics will not change. But what is important to mention here, the more fast twitch fibers, and we have a fast twitch, slow twitch fibers in our body, more fast twitch fiber person has, faster that either arm or legs will be. And again, just like in previous example, you find what is naturally fast and try to support that, but the real thing is to find what is arm or legs naturally slow and try to delete those deficiencies. Now, genetic distribution of muscle fiber throughout the body, they favor particular sport. For instance, endurance athletes correspond to the greater number of slow twitch fibers, like long distance runners, as can be seen on this table here, or 5-kilometer runners. Opposite from that is a non-endurance sport that correspond to the greater number of fast twitch fiber, 100-meter runners. They have a 90 and more percent of fast twitch fiber. Gymnasts, very similar to 100-meter runner. And right smack in the middle with this large red dot, those are non-athletes, and they're usually about 50% slow twitch and fast twitch fibers. What can we say in summary? In traditional Karate Do, way of life, martial artist practice his entire life. He practiced 24/7, and he is getting ready to defend himself against the enemy. And after repetition of technique 1 million times and more than that, we assume that true martial artists will develop greater speed of technique. Again, let's repeat that. This is only an assumption. For obvious reason, because there are no studies on speed of techniques on all true martial artists. That's prior to 1920. And only point of reference for this assumption is the work of Master Nakayama from 1966, which showed that higher ranking are faster, and assumption is probably that those martial artists that practice longer, they're going to be faster compared to those who practice less. What can we say for sports karate? Karate athletes, opposite from martial artists, practice only 3 to 5 times per week. And about what is the window? It's about 10 to 15 years, somewhere from age of 15, 18 to about 25, 30. And that span is not as huge compared to the martial artists. Therefore, we need to immediately start with a correction from the get-go. Correct whatever mistakes are that athlete can produce, continue to produce sound training where outcome will be greater speed. And we can see this in Master Nakayama's study, that 4 dan, as we mentioned before, is a faster than a second dan. Probably is a result of sound training right from the beginning. Us